The NBA. It's not just a place where a basketball bounces on a hardwood floor. It's a world where dreams are born, hopes are planted, and sometimes, where those dreams quietly fall apart. Every year, thousands of young players fight tooth and nail just to step onto this stage. Since childhood, they've been grinding, sweating through pain, pushing through injuries, clinging to one hope: to make it. To make their families proud, to etch their names in basketball history. And some of them are crowned stars before they ever play a single game. They're called the next Jordan, the new LeBron. Multi-million-dollar contracts are signed. Headlines explode. Fans praise them online. Everyone waits to witness their rise. But the NBA is as ruthless as it is dazzling. Not everyone can carry the weight. Not every young star shines. Not every dream blossoms. And some of them fade away, like candles that were never lit. This video is about 5 players in NBA history who were once expected to become legends, but instead became some of the league's biggest disappointments. Some were crushed by injuries. Others broke under pressure. Some simply never lived up to the hype. Andrew Wiggins, the #1 overall pick in the 2014 NBA draft. At just 18 years old, this Canadian prospect was hailed as the next LeBron James. In high school, he dominated the court. At Kansas, every time he touched the ball, people thought they were watching a future MVP. He had elite athleticism, perfect size, strong defense, and undeniable scoring ability. Even before stepping onto an NBA court, he had signed a huge deal with Nike. He wasn't just a player, he was a brand. But that's exactly when things started to change. He was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, but before even suiting up, he was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves after LeBron returned to Cleveland. That trade alone showed how much pressure he was under. At just 19, Wiggins was asked to carry a franchise. Every time he stepped on the court, all eyes were on him. But as time passed, those hopeful stares turned into skeptical glances. His face looked blank. His performance inconsistent. One night he'd drop 30, and the next night he'd disappear. His biggest flaw? He could never turn his potential into consistency. Years passed. The buzz died down. Fans stopped expecting miracles. Eventually, he was traded to the Golden State Warriors. There, he found a new role: defensive contributor, team player, even a champion. But no one saw him as a superstar, because Andrew Wiggins was never that guy. Maybe the problem was that the expectations were too high. Maybe he wasn't meant to be the next LeBron. Maybe he was just meant to be a solid role player. And the NBA doesn't remember solid, it remembers legendary. Kwame Brown, arguably the most ridiculed player in NBA history. The #1 pick in the 2001 NBA draft, chosen personally by Michael Jordan. He was one of the first big men to make the jump straight from high school to the pros. A teenager expected to carry the weight of greatness before he'd even finished growing. The hype said he was going to be the next dominant center. The reality? He wasn't ready. His early years with the Washington Wizards were traumatic. Jordan was expected to mentor him, but instead he criticized him constantly. The media, the fans, even some teammates. Everyone expected more. Kwame started to lose confidence. On the court, he played scared. He panicked under pressure. He looked physically ready, but mentally he wasn't there. And the pressure didn't shape him, it broke him. Throughout his career, he bounced from team to team, never found stability, never proved he was worth the #1 pick. And every time his name came up, people asked the same question: how is this guy the top pick? Kwame Brown wasn't the superstar people wanted, but he didn't deserve the amount of hate he received either. His story is more than a basketball failure. It's a reflection of brutal expectations, cruel media, and a young soul that was never allowed to grow. Maybe the real failure wasn't his. Maybe it was ours, for expecting too much from a kid. Ben Simmons, the #1 pick in the 2016 NBA draft. A 6'10" point guard with the court vision of Magic Johnson and the athleticism of LeBron. At LSU, he showed flashes of brilliance. In Philadelphia, he was seen as the foundation of a future dynasty. The process wasn't just a slogan, it was a promise. And Simmons was its face. He won Rookie of the Year, became an all-star multiple times. But despite the accolades, something always felt incomplete. He couldn't shoot. And worse than that, he wouldn't even try. Still, Philly believed. Until 2021, in the playoffs against the Atlanta Hawks, the world saw what fear looks like on a basketball court. With the game on the line, Simmons passed up a wide-open dunk. In that moment, everything changed. The fans turned. The media turned. His teammates too turned. And Simmons himself seemed to shut down. He refused to play, cited mental health struggles, was eventually traded to the Brooklyn Nets. But the fire never returned. He looked lost, not just physically, but mentally. His confidence evaporated, and while his body still looked elite, his spirit was missing. Ben Simmons is still young. His story isn't over. But right now, it's a reminder that talent alone isn't enough. You also need heart and maybe courage. Greg Oden, the most heartbreaking story on this list. In 2007, he was chosen first overall, ahead of Kevin Durant. He was supposed to be the league's next great big man. Strong, mobile, dominant in the paint. Portland thought they had found their new franchise savior. But fate had other plans. Before he could even step onto the court, Oden got injured. Then again, and again. His knees couldn't hold up. His body betrayed him. In total, he played just 105 games in the NBA. That's it. For every minute he played, there were months of surgeries, rehab, and pain. Greg Oden wasn't lazy. He wasn't overhyped. He was just unlucky. Years later, he said, "I just wanted a normal career, but my body didn't let me." And that single sentence tells you everything. Oden never had the chance to fail or to succeed. The NBA spotlight barely touched him before it disappeared. His name doesn't bring laughter or anger, just silence. And a quiet, what if? Darko Milicic, the biggest what could have been in NBA history. In the legendary 2003 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons selected him with the second overall pick, right after LeBron James. But instead of picking Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, or Dwyane Wade, they chose a mystery from Serbia. Darko had height, touch, and European flair, but he wasn't ready for the NBA's speed, strength, or spotlight. The Pistons were a veteran team chasing championships. There was no time to develop him. He sat on the bench, got frustrated, lost his confidence, and before long, he was just another name traded from team to team. His career was forgettable, his impact minimal. Meanwhile, the players picked after him went on to become Hall of Famers. Every time someone said Darko, it wasn't a name, it was a joke. But behind that punchline was a kid thrown into the deep end too fast. And his failure changed not just his life, but an entire franchise's history.